Think through what just happened. A handsome, upper-class white male, Ivy League graduate with irreparable and debilitating chronic pain appears to have 3D printed a ghost gun with a silencer and used it to, without support from anyone else, execute a Wall Street CEO. The thing that stands out is this crime, it robbed the people in power of all of their go-to excuses. This wasn't an immigrant. It wasn't a stolen gun. It wasn't a person who's mentally ill. This was the collision of two previously unrelated instances of late-stage capitalism: unregulated healthcare and completely unregulated weapons. This was the Republican deregulation machine attacking itself, and it's already sending shockwaves across every platform I'm on.
Now, the problem we have with Luigi and this whole setup is that we have a whole bunch of Americans that don't want to admit Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was a criminal, because that's the real problem. The problem isn't that this Luigi guy got so fed up that he felt like he had to take matters in his own hands and make a gigantic statement in order to try and change the tide of the course of American healthcare. That's just the situation we find ourselves in. The problem is a CEO like Brian Thompson can elevate the denials of his healthcare company from 9% to 32% to maximize shareholder profits, and we don't put that motherfucker in prison. Like, why are CEOs allowed to murder people indirectly with their actions to ruthlessly exploit, creating profits for already rich motherfuckers? And why do they not go to jail for that shit? Why, if I go into a Kroger and steal, $100 worth of groceries, will I go to jail? But if Kroger steals $1.5 million from their employees, they get a slap on the wrist, and nobody who works at the company suffers anything because Kroger's a fucking corporation. Why? Why does that shit go on, boss? Americans of all different backgrounds recognize the pain and identified with his motivations. Because the real thing here at the core of this shooting is even beyond the murder. The murder's tragic. Violence is not a solution to things. We know this. But the underlying motive here is that we have a healthcare system in America that is healthcare profiteering. It's beyond simply having an industry that is making money. I mean, it's bad enough to have a healthcare industry that is for profit, which is problematic. Healthcare should be nonprofit. There shouldn't be a profit motive, because the minute you have a profit motive in healthcare, you have a situation where people are potentially going to get harmed by your decision making. Layer one is that you have an industry where there's a profit motive around whether people live or die or whether people stay sick. I mean, that is in and of itself hugely problematic, because if you have a profit motive attached to healthcare, then you're going to make the most profit when people are coming back. You need repeat customers. So a profit motive with healthcare makes it so people are encouraged to not be cured. The cure ends your ability to monetize them. So it's inherently destructive having a healthcare system with a profit motive. But in America, we go a step further, where we don't just go and have it so there's a profit motive and we're encouraging people to be continuing using healthcare, but we go into full-on profiteering mode, where now they are gaming the systems in order to just extract as much wealth as possible. How do they do that? They do that with denials and the layered systems of avoiding paying for shit. They do that with the money they extract from the system. Then they do stock buybacks instead of putting it back into the care. They have, shareholders, and they just amplify the price of this stock and boost these healthcare companies and combine them into these huge monolithic beasts that are just grinding at the generation of as much profit as possible. And the shareholders are getting rich, and the executives are getting rich, and the human beings are getting chewed up and spit out. The whole thing is just a disgusting, layered excuse to extract money endlessly from people. And it really harms the value of the care. And the fact that we had a group reaction to this guy's actions was very telling. And I think we need to honor paying attention to that reaction, and we need to let this tragedy become the impetus for us to improve our healthcare experience. Now, you might ask, in America, what is the problem with our healthcare experience? Well, there's a number of them. One of them here is the insurance industry. It's got a lot of money. It's got a lot of power. It's got a lot of profit, a lot of shareholders that are also wealthy and powerful people, and it's very entrenched. Now, if you are in the top of the economic echelon, you're those capitalists up at the top of the pyramid, you have unbelievable healthcare. You have access to the best doctors, the most talented specialists. You don't ever wait. You get the first appointments. Everything is in network. You don't deal with any of the healthcare snafus. That is the upper crust. The really wealthy have insurance. They have their healthcare savings accounts. Those people have the best fucking healthcare that money can buy. And they never have to worry about some piss poor person taking their appointment. And that is really one of the big problems. Most everybody that has the power to really back a revolution in healthcare, they are all people that have that pristine fucking healthcare. And they don't want to give it up. They don't want to have a system where they may have to wait 2 weeks to see a doctor because some guy who works at an Amazon warehouse is going to have access to that same doctor. So the problem is we have a certain class of people that have this unbelievably perfect healthcare, and they don't want to sacrifice any of that. So if there was Medicare for all, it would change some of the dynamics of that system. Specialized medicine caters towards only the wealthy class. If you have their right kind of insurance or you are paying cash, you get the care right away. But if you're using the state-funded public option, they put you out into the extended wait time section. Now, so that's really the hard thing about switching from the system we have to a public option is the fact that some of the people are going to lose some aspects of their current care in order for a whole bunch of other people to gain. And we know as Americans, we don't really handle that type of adjustment. I mean, this is why we have Donald Trump as president, right? Because right-wingers simply don't want the people they don't like having access to the same rights and freedoms as they have. They want those freedoms. They believe in those freedoms, but they don't believe in helping the people that they don't like have those freedoms. And it's kind of the same shit. But again, we got to do something. Because so many people have healthcare that's just not good. It's just not good. And that's a problem. I've always felt like healthcare and food and education should be nonprofit industries. They should be actual nonprofits. The executives in those industries should have capped income potentials. And instead of stock buybacks and, creating value for the shareholders, all of that money should be funneling back into the healthcare itself. And this is really important because I really hope that we don't lose sight of this shit because I've never seen anything like this, guys. This shooter shooting this CEO, and it happened to be the CEO of like one of the most degenerate healthcare companies out there. And it is just a universal reaction. It's not left-wing. It's not right-wing. Like I'm telling you, hatred and rage towards our dysfunctional healthcare system could literally be the thing that unites America. It's very unusual to see people reacting to a murder and almost being gleeful about it. That tells us that our profiteering healthcare system is in fact something that is very traumatic to large swaths of the public, and we are so damaged by this that we're able to witness a murder and not even fucking care, and in fact be like almost celebrating said murder. So we need to fix this shit, because if we don't look at this as a societal sign, it's like if you're looking at this shit and you're watching late stage capitalism kill people and you're not doing something to prevent it, you got to ask yourself, what the is wrong with you, right? I think it's time for us to get involved. The problem is we can't get to a baseline of agreeing that Brian Thompson, CEO of 𝗍𝗡𝗄, was a fucking crook.
Everybody has been disturbed by the amount of negative and in many cases vitriolic media and commentary that has been produced over the last few days, particularly in the social media environment. And I want to reassure you of a few things. Firstly, we are going to continue to make sure that we put patients, consumers, and members first.
Okay, now first off, he said patients, consumers, and members first. Look at this shit. How is this putting patients first? Dude, this shit is crazy, bro.
As we always have done. The mission of this company is truly to make sure that we help the system improve by helping the experience for individuals get better and better. There was nobody who did more to try and advance that mission than Brian Thompson. And there are very few people in the history of the US healthcare industry who had a bigger positive effect on American healthcare than Brian. And we are going to make sure that we not only acknowledge and honor that legacy of Brian, but we will continue it. Our role is a critical role.
See, the thing is, these guys think they're the good guys, dude. They really do. It's astonishing. Like, how could they possibly think they're the good guys?
Sure that care is safe, appropriate, and is delivered when people need it. And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable.
For unnecessary care is what they say. The problem with this shit is how they justify their actions. Sustainable. Sustainable for what? Sustainable for their multi-million-dollar salaries? Sustainable for their stock buybacks? Etc., etc. Because here's the problem with the whole unnecessary care is they have actuaries. They crunch numbers to figure out how best to f*** the people who buy their insurance over in order to maximize profits. And now they use AI. Their actuaries are working with AI algorithms in order to figure out how do we not pay? Because that's what the problem is. The problem is people pay for insurance, and insurance makes money by not paying for people. Insurance is a ruse. All insurance. They cover you, and then they try to fuck you in any way possible. And you have zero power. And they are mega corporations with the best lawyers that can bury you, so there's nothing you can do about it. The entire business is a fucking racket of like, you give us money for protection, and then when the time comes, we give you the least amount of money possible. And they usually do it across class lines. It's going to be the poor people of color that have no access to lawyers and shit. They don't pull this shit on like the Winklevoss twins, the guys whose dads have a house counsel. Those guys don't get out of the care. They do it to the poor minority people that don't have a lawyer, that can't fight the shit. That's what they always do, dude. Always.
So we're going to continue to make that case. We will continue to do the work we do. And I have never been more proud of this company and our colleagues and what this company does on behalf of people in need across the country.
Dude, what a fucking degenerate, bro. They're literally the worst company. They're the most degenerate and predatory healthcare company out there. They should be in fucking prison, these guys, but they're not. He's out there. I am so proud of how we're fucking people over. We're doing such a good thing. Like, I'm going to go bang a fucking Ukrainian hooker on a yacht later with funds from all those dead people. And I'm going to do it in honor of Brian Thompson.
I encourage you to tune out that critical noise that we're hearing right now.
Jesus.
It does not reflect reality. It is simply a sign of an era in which we live.
He wants you to tune out the noise about people demanding better health care. It is so disturbing.
All of their go-to excuses. This wasn't an immigrant. It wasn't a stolen gun. It wasn't a person who's mentally ill. This was the collision of two previously unrelated instances of late-stage capitalism. Unregulated healthcare and completely unregulated weapons. This was the Republican deregulation machine attacking itself, and it's already sending shockwaves across every platform I'm on. So here's what I need to see from the leader who's willing to say it. Skip the calls for violence in all of its forms must be condemned. That's honestly no different from saying thoughts and prayers after a mass shooting. Take this unique opportunity to lead us through the challenges that have just been forced into the spotlight. Because when we take the necessary steps here, there is no way we walk out without greater conviction for healthcare reform and gun control. But these are the kinds of things that polished politicians want to avoid, which is why I'm paying close attention. Is there a leader who's willing to say what needs to be said so that we can do what needs to be done?
See, that's really interesting because I tell you what, guys, if there were a whole bunch of Luigi Mangiones walking around blowing away high power CEOs and politicians, we would have gun control in like 12 minutes flat. There would be gun control real fucking quick, bro. If CEOs and politicians start getting offed en masse, if we have like some sort of a French revolution against the wealthy, if Elon and Tim Cook and Ted Cruz and a handful of other people got gunned down, we would see gun control laws in 2 seconds. They would not be doing any of this thoughts and prayers shit. Thoughts and prayers only happens when the constituents are getting murdered or the school kids or the piss poor. That's when you get thoughts and prayers. That's when you get Trump saying, get over it. We can look at this and say, like, obviously, vigilante justice is horrible. We don't want to live in a world where vigilante justice is just administered up, down, and sideways. Of course, nobody wants that. But if we continue to let late-stage capitalism rip and pillage all of us, that's exactly what we're going to end up with. It's going to be French Revolution style, guys. You're not going to be able to let people just continually bilk people and create this wealth gap that is so severe where 60% of America is fucking starving while a bunch of rich people walk around and think that eventually all those 60% of starving people aren't going to start knocking off the fucking rich people and taking all their shit. And to be honest with you, I think the rich people would fucking deserve it. If you're going to amass more wealth than you could ever spend in a million lifetimes, and you're doing it at the expense of other people dying, and you're ruthless and uncaring about it, eventually the dying people are going to knock you off. And I think you kind of have it coming. I mean, they're paying for the insurance, bro. The company's not even about protecting me. They sell some phony protection to me, but the company is about raking in profits and stock buybacks and manipulating financial markets and acquiring political power for a bunch of greedy motherfuckers. And like, God damn it, I want greed to be punished. You know, like if a poor person steals because they're hungry, they get punished. But if a rich capitalist steals because he's greedy, he gets a commission. He gets rewarded. He gets the cover of Forbes magazine. He gets to be fucking president. And that shit is bullshit. It's like, dude, we're now seeing it. If we don't do something now, this shit is going to get out of control, bro. I mean, dude, we are seeing some very serious late-stage capitalism problems in America. Like a lot of them. We're seeing the infiltration of oligarchical control of the government, billionaires nepotism infusing the government with Trump and his cabinet. We are seeing corporate buying up of housing, increasing homelessness. We are seeing the wealth gap just getting extraordinary. 4 guys in America have $1 trillion in wealth. More and more, it's looking like if you're not born into a wealthy family, you're never buying a fucking house, bro. You're going to be giving 1/3 of your income to those rich pricks buying up the housing with corporations and hedge funds for the rest of your life. You're like a wealth battery, and they just attach themselves to you and just vacuum your wealth right out of you. So like 1,000 people can have more money and power than they'll know what to do with in 1,000 lifetimes. It's like we have capitalism staring us down, and then what are our elected officials doing? They passed a law saying like, oh, we're going to teach how bad communism is in school. We have a wealth care crisis where the people that are generating the wealth don't have any of it. And it's capitalism like eating us. And now in a month, there's going to be a president, a felonious, abusive, criminal con man president is about to take hold of the government with 13 other billionaires. And they are going to loot and gut everything that benefits us. They're going to us and maybe even crash the economy. And dude, we got to do something about this, bro.